VeloFix is the source for all of your bicycle needs. When it comes to parts as well as repair, VeloFix is there to help you get back on the road. It's a mobile bike shop on wheels. Check them out at velofix.com. And here in Southern California, Paul Dunlap is there at every gravel event, fondo, and bike race to take care of your bicycle and have you get back out there. Check him out at velofix.com. This is the SoCal Cycling Podcast with Brian Coe.
SoCal cyclist, and I'm assuming that's Southern Calcutta. Just kidding. Probably Southern California.
Of course it is, so join us for the next episode. Welcome to the SoCal Cyclist Podcast, the podcast that brings you the people and practice of the Peloton. I'm your host, Brian Coe, and I think fall is in the air. How do I know this? Well, the cycling season is winding down with only a couple of key races left in the year. That, of course, for the road being the Vuelta, and of course, also the end of the year marks the World Championships. I am rooting for a couple of Americans, but I'm also celebrating because we have Kate Courtney, who just won the Mountain Bike World Championships. This is huge for America. And let me put this into perspective. It hasn't been until now, the 17-year gap between 2001 and now that marks the last time an American won. It was way back Allison Dunlap, some of you might have remembered, which is coincidentally kind of the last time I ever rode a mountain bike and raced a mountain bike. And it's been 17 years, and Kate Courtney had a fantastic race, beating out Denmark's Annika Langved and Canada's Emily Batty to win the Rainbow Stripes for a year, and then rainbow stripes on her sleeves for the rest of her career. It's huge. So congrats to her. It was an amazing race if you saw it. I highly recommend you watch the highlights wherever you can download it or stream it. And I don't know, mountain biking has never really been my thing. I did race mountain bikes for about 4 years, but maybe this is a chance for me to get back on the mountain bike game. I have to get a mountain bike first. I just got a gravel bike not that long ago, and it's kind of bringing me back to some of my mountain biking roots. So I really do look forward to that. So congratulations, Mountain Bike Worlds. We have Road Worlds next, and one of the cool things is we're interviewing somebody who's going to be competing at the U23 Road Worlds in Innsbruck. His name's Alex Hoehn, and he is going to be our guest on the podcast. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get in another segment of Ask a Lawyer with our good friend Josh Benici, who talks about what to do inevitably when you're a cyclist and you get pulled over by a cop. Let's go ahead and listen to Ask a Lawyer. On the bike, a lot of times, I think a lot of cyclists get pulled over, and some don't know how to react in that situation depending on what it is. It could be rolling a stop sign. It could be at the stop sign, but you didn't put your foot down. It could be, is it speeding? I mean, do police officers get cyclists for speeding? Sure. DUIs on the bike, a little cocktail in the water bottle every now and then. Riding on the sidewalk, littering, all these things that you could obviously get pulled over if you're in your vehicle, but your bike, a lot of cyclists get pulled over for all kinds of reasons. What's the best way to sort of handle yourself if somebody gets pulled over by a cop?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, whenever dealing with law enforcement, you always want to be as polite as possible. And my thing is to try to make the police officer feel as safe as possible, right? Mm-hmm. On a road bike, when you're in your kit that's probably a half size too small, there's probably not much area to hide something.
There's nothing bulging out.
Yeah, that the officer is going to be worried about, right? But the big thing is just to of course never say, "Oh my gosh, I was totally speeding. You should give me a ticket." Mm-hmm. Good afternoon, officer. How you doing? What's going on? Yeah. And just talk with them. My biggest thing is to educate yourself on the California Vehicle Code as it depicts where a bicycle can be and why. It's the CVC 21200 series. There's maybe 10 or 15 that really apply to where you can ride, how you should be treated, and you know it. Because a lot of times some of these cops don't know the exact laws or how they're interpreted. A lot of times I've had officers talk to me about, well, the law says you should be running to the right of the road the whole time. It's like, well, it does say that, but if you look at the third exception, it gives us a lot of leeway on when we can make a judgment call to be able to enter the lane and hold the lane.
Mm-hmm. What about the 3 feet rule? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a car being pulled over and ticketed.
No.
Because they were less than 3 feet within a cyclist.
The 3 foot rule is ridiculous. When people tell me, oh, that's motorists still kind of talk to me when I tell them I'm a bike lawyer. I'm like, okay, next time you take a train and the train's coming, measure 3 feet and stand 3 feet away from when the train's coming. That train is not going to dictate where, it's not going to move from its track.
Yeah.
But you're going to feel pretty darn nervous standing 3 feet away. I've never seen or heard of a car getting pulled over for the 3 foot rule. There's those Facebook videos.
Is it the law technically?
It's the law. It changed either this January or last January, that it actually gave it that 3 feet, that 36-inch magnitude. But I mean, that's nothing. Right. I mean,
but the thing is too, so say you're in a road with no bike lane and there's cars parked to your right.
Yeah.
You still have to give yourself at least 3 feet from that in case somebody opens a door, which people get doored all the time.
Sure.
And then another 3 feet from that puts you almost in the middle to the left of that lane. Meanwhile, cars are behind you thinking, who's this road hog taking up the road? They have no idea that it's for safety.
Totally. And once you explain that to somebody, you can kind of see the light bulb come on a little bit,
mm-hmm.
right? But really, the 3 foot rule shouldn't even come into play in that type of a scenario. Again, I keep going back to the California Vehicle Code. I mean, 21202 A3 is saying that when you can take the lane, pretty much. And one of the times is when you're in a substandard width lane, saying that there's not enough room for a bicycle to be in the lane and a car to pass that bicycle within the 3 feet while staying within the lane,
mm-hmm.
right? That a lot of times has to be explained to a police officer. So you want to calmly kind of do that and in a way to have them look at that and assess the situation.
It's so hard, though, because just the human side of people, nobody wants to be wrong, especially if you're a cop saying, here's the law, and you're like, no, here's the law. The cop's not going to be like, I see your point. You have a nice day.
That's the hardest part, right? I mean,
yeah.
And luckily, knock on some wood somewhere, I haven't had too many bad interactions with a police officer. The last thing I want to do is be like, look, buddy, I'm a bike lawyer, and I'm going to quote these vehicle code sections for you, and you can go back in your car and take a look at it. That's not going to get anybody anywhere. Right. But I think arming yourself with the laws and knowing, I was here because there was a bunch of debris back there. If you want, we can go back and look at it, because I don't think anybody wants to hit that glass going 22 miles an hour. Right. That's not going to affect your car, and that's probably why you didn't notice it. But, take a look at my tires. I mean, they're like 95 PSI right now. That thing goes out, I'm wearing it, and that's not what anybody wants. That's probably my best advice on how to deal with that interaction. He writes you a ticket, thank him for the ticket, and fight that sucker.
Yeah.
Right? Traffic court is no fun, but I've helped a couple of buddies with that to say, hey, you get a ticket, or the infamous stop sign ticket in Del Mar or something on the weekends.
Oh yeah.
Is hit me up, shoot me an email. I'll at least give you the laws that pertain to that, so you can kind of make an argument or something. But what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah, logically, I get why people aren't rolling stop signs because they're thrill seekers. A lot of people are rolling stop signs because the less amount of time you have to spend in an intersection, the safer it is. And sometimes safety and the law don't always mesh. So and also some people, they don't stop. They can come to a complete stop because then a car will 90% wave them through, be like, come on through. A lot of times what people do is they'll wait for the car to their left's turn to go, and they almost use that car as like a linebacker, like a shield.
Totally.
So if a car comes, they're being protected. Maybe that cyclist didn't come to a complete stop, but then at least they're using that car to shield them. I don't know. And then not to mention too, like in a group ride, there's the theory of, okay, does every single person put their foot down, stop, and go? And cars are they're waving, some are going, some are in the middle of the intersection. or is it like one big blob? The
critical
blob,
mass.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
one blob that goes through. And if a cop pulls, I don't know if a cop has pulled an entire group ride over and ticketed everybody.
I've heard of Pelotons getting pulled over by motorcycle cops. Is it normal? No, I think it's on holidays and things. But that's where I think every rider has to kind of make that decision for themselves. Is it worth the risk of possibly getting pulled over? Because technically, if I don't stop and I'm using that car as the linebacker, like you're saying,
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna see every car is gonna be my fullback. I can see it now when I'm going down the coast. But if a cop was to pull me over, do they have the basis of giving me a ticket? Sure.
Yeah.
Does it make sense within the situation? Probably not. Right? It's just like you're going on the freeway speeding. You're going 66 miles an hour. Could you get a ticket? Yes.
Does it happen every day?
Does it happen every day? Does it make sense to get a ticket for going 66? That's another question.
Yeah.
Right? So you kind of have to, I think, play that out in your own mind and see what you are okay with. And again, it goes back to being a cycling ambassador too.
Yeah.
What's gonna look good? If I blow through there, are people gonna be pissed? Or am I coming through doing a real small track stand, and when they wave me through, I wave and try to jam through the intersection so that they can go?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's also been a situation where somebody was on a group ride, the light, half the group was going through yellow. It turns red. He slows down and gets rammed from behind by other cyclists that were going to gun it. So It's like, do I risk getting hit from behind and possibly injured just to obey this traffic?
Yeah.
At worst, it's a traffic violation. You get a ticket. Or at best, at worst, you could be in the hospital.
Right.
Right. So yeah, it's safety and the law are not always exactly hand in hand. Let's say I'm with my buddies and we do get pulled over by a cop. What's the whole thing with recording the interaction on your phone? Everybody's got a phone on their rides. Sometimes you can film. I don't know. Cops are like, turn the camera off. Like, what can you do in that situation?
So I
cops have body cams too,
And you're right. And so disclaimer, I'm not a criminal defense attorney. I don't know the exact who you can film. As a normal human that's in society, if you are making yourself out and you're in the public, you are allowing yourself, and you've taken away that what the law says, the reasonable expectation of privacy, and you're there. So, someone taking your picture or videoing you makes sense. So, videoing an interaction with police, I don't believe is going to be an issue. I don't know of a law that goes against it. I might be wrong. Don't take, this is not legal hour of, this is my opinion on it, on this particular piece of it. But I don't see where that could hurt you.
Yeah.
Recording it, I think you're going to get hopefully a little bit better of a reaction. If you have a GoPro going, just let it go. Right? Because that, number one, could, I think, affect the interaction, hopefully get you a better interaction.
Yeah.
Or if there's something that you can use in getting, if you get that ticket and the cop is quoting law that's not right, show that to the judge in traffic court and be like, unfortunately there was a miscommunication and this is why I got the ticket. Mm-hmm. Then this is why I think it should get dismissed.
In court cases, will juries in the court use footage from your dash cam? Cyclic is a big one out there that's being used on the rear and front of bikes, mainly to just document. People aren't necessarily using it as their action cams as footage in bike races. Mm-hmm. They're using it as safety.
It's the just in case.
Yeah, you hope you never have to use it. In fact, when I go home and take mine, I power it off. Nothing happened that day, whatever. It just overrides the data.
Yep.
And then, knock on wood, I haven't had to use it, but just knowing that it's there, it definitely helps.
I've had several cases where I wish we had that, where liability was a big dispute. Or even if liability is not a dispute, it can sometimes show the amount of impact that happened too. If you're not a cyclist, you sometimes don't understand that the person going 7 miles an hour behind you rear-ending you, what that can do to push a bike and almost lift it off the ground sometimes. Mm-hmm. I saw a video from one of my friends from one of the teams that I sponsor. They had a rear view camera on their bike. They were literally stopped at a red light, and you could see a truck behind them stop, slowly inch forward, and hit them on purpose, going 1 mile an hour.
That's technically a collision.
100%. And they drove away. So now it's a hit and run, right? Was there injury? No. Was this person super freaked out? Yeah, I'd be pretty freaked out too, because that's intentional, right?
Yeah.
Now, submitting that to the police, let's say this person's done it a couple of times, you have video evidence of it, that's kind of where something can be done, right? That may not be a case, but hopefully that person can be reprimanded, ticketed, or arrested, because that happens often. That could be aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah, and in cycling, there's no fender benders. Cyclists are going to lose, 160 pounds versus 3,000 pounds.
Right. The odds don't look good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's Josh Benici of Benici Law Group. Learn more about him at benicilawgroup.com. Next, we have Alex Hoehn and Adam Mills. Alex Hoehn is a U23 rider, but he's not just any U23 rider. He's your current U23 Road Race National Champion. He's on a U23 team, the Aevolo Cycling Team, and he's just completed 2 of the biggest races in the United States, the Tour of Utah and the Colorado Classic. His season is winding down, and he's got 1 race left, World Championships. We're rooting for him because this is a course that suits him, but he is very much an underdog in this race. We're joined with him as well as his coach, Adam Mills of Sorts Endurance, who provides a great perspective and great advice to Alex's training. So let's go ahead and get into that portion with Alex Hoehn and Adam Mills. Alex and Adam. Adam is from Source Endurance. Alex is the young gun on the Aevolo Cycling Team who just finished the Tour of Utah and the Colorado Classic. How are you both doing today?
Great.
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. First of all, Adam, you coach Alex as an athlete. How's that kind of coaching dynamic been? You've coached a lot of people, and so you have a lot of experience under your belt. How does Alex sort of stack up with some of the other people you coach with in terms of his ability to be coached?
I mean, I think everyone's a challenge in their own way. Alex is definitely easier to coach in a lot of aspects than others. I kind of credit that towards his history in the sport or in sport in general, and always having coaches and mentors around him. So far so good, and he works really hard and asks a lot of questions.
And that's an important thing because, there's 2 types of athletes, like the cookbook method. They just get a bunch of directions, follow the recipe, and go. And then there's the other kind where they seem to be a little bit more involved in some of the process. Alex, how is you just came off of 2 huge races, Utah and Colorado. Right. I mean, how do you feel? Congratulations on doing well at those. Was it 17th at Utah?
17th at Utah. Yep.
That's amazing. And you're 20 years old. That is amazing. And then how did Colorado go for you?
It was a good race. For the team, it was amazing. We got a stage win on stage 1 with Gage Hecht up in Vail. But as far as for myself, it was not as a selective race as I wanted it to be. The big climbing day in Denver had a lot of climbing, but it didn't necessarily finish with a lot of climbing, and so that allowed a lot of people that got dropped on the climbs to essentially make their way back to the front group and sprint. So yeah, it was a great race, but not the most selective race I've done, and so it wasn't amazing, but we definitely had some success within that race.
And so you prefer to have your races be more of a selective thing than coming down to a big field sprint at the end?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not really the one that can out sprint most sprinters that can climb that can climb really well. So, I mean, there's like guys that can sprint extremely well, that get dropped really early. Then there's guys that can hang in there like Travis McCabe or Gage Hecht or whatnot, that can climb very well with me. But if it's not even hard enough for them, then they'll definitely outsprint me in the end. So that's kind of how it was for the whole race at Colorado.
So you prefer to turn the screws on them a little bit, just to lessen the impact at the end.
Right.
Man, I I am not a climber, so I know that feeling of when the screws get turned on, because I'm like, oh, I gotta if I don't make it over that climb, I'm not with the group at the end. Sure. So yeah, no, that's good. And you're also, for the few people that don't know, the current U23 national champion. Congratulations on that. You get to wear the stars and stripes, and I mean, how you're in very, very elite company. How are you sort of taking the weight of that title, as you go into the next season?
Oh, I'm definitely, super appreciative to get to wear this jersey. It doesn't happen to everyone. It happens to very few people in that case, and you only get to wear it for 1 year before you have to compete for it again. So I'm taking every opportunity, taking advantage of, wearing that jersey during all my training sessions, all the races that I'm allowed to wear it in, and just repping the jersey as best as I can and being a great candidate for the U.S.
And we've said this before, but you're 20. Adam, what were you doing when you were 20 years old?
Man, when I was 20, I could barely get to class.
I would say that's the same thing. I was racing collegiate, but I could barely get to class. I was I was really into girls more than bikes. I'm embarrassed to say. Alex, how are you sort of taking everything right now with just your lifestyle?
So I'm actually in school as well. It's not much school right now just because of the opportunity I am able to have through cycling. Not everyone gets to race at this level of professional level, and not everyone gets to, like I said, wear that jersey. So I'm taking school more slower than usual. I'm only taking a couple classes in Colorado while training full-time, especially right now, getting ready for the World Championships later in September. So, I have a disciplined lifestyle, very, one kind of like just day in, day out is the same exact for me. I go to sleep, get up, train, and do homework in the afternoon, so I don't have much room for many other activities and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm dealing with it.
Coming up after the break, we're going to hear more from Alex Hoehn and Adam Mills and his bid to take on U23 Worlds. Is your bicycle in need of repair? Have you had a bad experience at your local bike shop? VeloFix might be the alternative. VeloFix is a mobile bike shop on wheels, and what they do is they go to your home as well as your work, and they'll work on your bike right in front of you. They also carry an assortment of soft goods such as tires and tubes, and will get your bike ready for that next event. VeloFix is often seen at many bike races, but can also be seen driving around in case you need them. VeloFix will have a quick turnaround time, friendly service, and they'll go to great lengths to make sure you're a return customer. They are featured in almost every major city in the United States, and their base is growing. VeloFix is a major bike shop on wheels, and what they have inside those vans is just about everything that the bike shops carry. If they can't do it, nobody will. Check them out at velofix.com. For listeners in and around Orange County, a good dentist is hard to find. Just like your bike, your smile needs to be serviced regularly. OC Healthy Smiles was voted 2018's top dentist because your oral health and comfort is our highest priority. See the OC Healthy Smiles difference at your next dental exam and cleaning. Also, mention this ad for a free in-office whitening at your first scheduled appointment. Check them out at OCHealthySmiles.com. Schedule an appointment right now, and their offer is limited to the first 7 scheduled appointments, so call before it's too late. That's 714-907-4842. And now, back to the SCC podcast with Alex Hoehn and Adam Mills. Adam, have you addressed any kind of things with that mental burnout at the end of the season, or are you just going all in with all guns blazing?
So I guess every athlete will burn out given the right circumstances and being pushed too hard. And Alex is more driven than a lot of athletes that I work with and that we work with at Source Endurance. But to some degree, that's what enables him to train enough to have like that physical ability to win a national championship. So I think across all sport, you look at the greats and how much they practice and or train, and it's a lot and it matters. And so Alex does kind of get burned out like everyone does, but I try and build the programs and build the training out well enough to where he gets enough short rests often enough where he always wants to do more. And I think even this week, finishing Colorado and Utah and having a few days of rest right after, he asked me, is that too many days off? And I said, absolutely not. You just did the 2 hardest races in North America. You need a handful of days easy. And it's pretty cool to see, because that means he wants to get right back into it. And it's always easier to hold someone back a little bit like this as opposed to trying to convince them to go out and to do the hard work and the hard training, because it is hard at the level he's riding. You look at the guy like Gavin Mannion who won Colorado. Like he does really hard training, and I don't work with Gavin, but I know Gavin well enough just from the past to know like the guy trains hard and he rides a lot, and Alex trains hard and he rides a lot, because you have to do that to be successful.
Alex, are there times where you're looking at your bike going, man, I just want to leave it where it's sitting. I don't want to grab it right now and, hit the road for 5 hours?
Yeah, absolutely. More so like during the ride, sometimes I'll ride, 5 or 6 hours, and I'll be on my last set of intervals, and I'll just be like, I just want to sit on the side of the road and eat a Pop-Tart or something. I'm not in the mood to do this last set. And so I'll have to, sometimes when I get real cracked, it's only for the day. I have a bad day and I'm like, oh, this is awful. I don't want to ride right now. And 95% of the time I'll be able to push through that and finish the set and just say, screw it, we're going to do this. This is everything we're doing now is going to come out to something great later on in the year. So I know I need to do this. But when I get burnt out, I'm not necessarily burnt out from the sport, just really burnt out from the day. So I definitely take into consideration not getting burnt out of the whole sport. So like Adam said, we definitely have a few days where I'm not training after big races like a lot of people do, just to take physical rest. But what some people don't understand is that more than just physically resting, you're mentally resting, because during 5-6 days of hard training, when you're doing 4 or 5 hours every single day, you don't really it takes a massive toll mentally just to know that, okay, I'm done at 3 o'clock, I got to eat food, I have to take a nap, I have to wake up, I have to eat more food, go to bed, and then guess what? When I wake up, I have to do the same thing again, and then again. It is really taxing mentally, almost the same as physically. So yeah, Adam and I work really well together, knowing my strengths and weaknesses and how far we can push myself, and we push pretty hard, that's for sure. But we definitely know that there's a balance.
Do you mostly train by yourself, or do you ride? I mean, because a lot of times you can push yourself harder when you're riding with friends or teammates or even opponents. Do you go out there and do that?
Well, so I do sometimes, and those are the days where I'm like on the verge of being kind of cracked. I'm like, oh man, I got to find some people to ride with, or I'm just going to complain and go home. But that's very, 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 very seldom, not often at all. Most of the time, I'm extremely self-disciplined and self-driven as just a person, that I don't need anyone to go race hard. Like, I will train harder sometimes by myself than with other people, because some people that I train with, they just do not go hard enough, and I really like to train by myself when I'm doing really hard, intense intervals, because I just know if I'm on a good day, I will go very, very hard, and it will be more than what Adam has on my training peaks, and I'll be pushing myself to the very limit, the very edge of my capabilities. So there's a balance with that as well. But for probably like 75% of the time, I'll ride by myself. And the other days where I have maybe like 2 or 3 hours, I'll try to find someone to ride with just because it's fun to talk to someone every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, and
in a lot
Brian,
of cases,
that's the curse of being talented or being fast, is that on a training day, I mean, there's only a handful of days that there's only a handful of people that Alex can go ride with on a true training day.
Exactly.
And,
that's my point. That's what I was saying.
And that's because, I could probably ride with Alex, but I wouldn't be in the wind, and I would be sitting behind him, and I'd probably be complaining about how hard it was the whole time, and it wouldn't be fun. So and a lot of people just ride for fun first and not for a job. And Alex, the other way around. I mean, you're a professional bike racer, just like there are professional accountants and professional investors, and it doesn't. Not every day at the office is fun. And, for a guy like Alex, for people to understand that, like when you see a professional rider and they're riding, with non-pros and they're goofing off and, flipping pop cans off the bike path and whatever, like they're goofing off. But when they go train, it's not easy and it's not usually fun, especially if you're riding at their speeds. It's just a different world, and most of us never get a chance to see it. But
it sounds like we need to get like Sagan and Froome over to you, and then you can train with them, and then really take it to them hard.
Oh, get out of here!
Okay, and Geraint Thomas too. He's riding pretty well, I guess.
Oh, okay, yes, for sure.
Actually, speaking of Froome, he's one of those people when he would train, would turn off his Garmin before his ride would end. So when he'd upload the data to his coaches, they'd be like, oh, okay, you did this, but he would actually ride more than that. But his coaches would only see like a certain amount, which is just crazy. That's just, man, that's crazy. But yeah, where do you think all of this like super hard work ethic came from? We know that, again, for the people that don't know, cycling's not your first sport. You were a hockey player of all sports. And hockey, just watching it on TV, I've never actually seen it in person, kind of scares the crap out of me. I mean, people are fighting. Like how do you go from hockey to cycling and take that same work ethic?
So I've always had a pretty big work ethic. I would say most of it came from my dad. He's the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. He goes hard when he works, just like I do when I train, and he's disciplined as well and always wants to keep moving forward, and he rubbed off 100% of that onto me. So I have him to thank for that gene that I have. But for hockey, that also taught me a lot about self-discipline and drive and work ethic. All those things. Someone might have the ability to get a 30 on an ACT or 32 on an ACT, but if you don't ever practice, if you don't ever take the test, you'll never know. So same with having that ability to be self-disciplined and driven and work extremely hard. If I just sat on the couch all day and watched TV for my whole life, maybe I could say, yeah, I'm the hardest working person ever, but you would never know. So I think getting into hockey really brought out those talents that I have.
Yeah, because you don't see too many hockey players transition into cycling, even though I've seen speed skaters that transfer into cycling, and really good speed skaters too, and become really good cyclists. But yeah, it's such a aggressive, in your face sport, hockey, whereas unless you're a pro crit racer in cycling, you don't see the same, it's not the same mentality. It's more of a gentleman's sport, a lot more etiquette.
It is, for sure, absolutely.
Well, and some of the advantage maybe that Alex had by starting a competitive sport early is that you get to see what the really, really good guys can do, right? So when you're in a high school basketball game or even an AAU basketball game, you can watch the players and you can say, okay, that guy's way better, that woman's way better, and they're going to play professionally, or they could probably play professionally someday given their path, and if they take the right path and stay on the path. But in cycling, for the most part, you never see that. So, and you see that, you hear about it in group rides. People talk about, oh, well, Taylor Phinney came on the group ride a couple of years ago and he was amazing. But you're talking one guy, one ride 5 years ago. So that memory fades pretty fast. And a lot of group ride athletes, they'll just remember the person was good, but they don't remember how much better they were. And so you don't get this true absolute indicator of how strong or how capable an athlete is at a high level. Whereas in hockey, you do. And if nothing else, Alex got this opportunity to see what really good players were and then how hard they had to work to be there. And if nothing else, that showed him firsthand, oh, you want to be good at something? It takes a lot of effort to do it. And I think that's a really big advantage, just if nothing else, for everything in life, even if it's not sport related. Because if you want to be the best lawyer or the best dentist or whatever, it takes a lot of hard work, period.
Alex, how old were you when you started playing hockey?
Oh, man, probably 4 or 5.
Oh, really? That young?
Oh, yeah. I started as early as I could skate. I got on the ice rink with my mom. She's the one that brought me and my sisters to the ice rink when we were younger, when my dad was at work, and we would go out and skate. And I was like, oh, man, I really want to do this. And I was super young. And so we bought some pads and some hockey stick and hockey skates and gloves and whatnot, and, got right into it. And I've been playing all the way since high school. So I've been playing for quite some time.
Longer than you've been a cyclist.
Oh, man, so much longer than I've been a cyclist.
Yeah. It's funny because
Absolutely.
there's this article that's been going around about why most kids quit youth sports at around age 13. And you see this massive decline in youth sports. Like, so if somebody started soccer or karate around the age of 13, they quit, or if they do keep on going, then they get into the elite levels of the sport. With cycling, you don't see people quitting at 13. You see people starting at 17 or 18. And people don't really peak until they're in their late 20s to early 30s, especially if you're a Grand Tour rider. So you have, in some ways, you have like your best years ahead of you in cycling. I know it sounds kind of cliche, but how far do you want to take cycling to go? Do you want to get to the World Tour level? I mean, you have your whole future ahead of you. What's the long game in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had 2 seasons of winter training, period, in my whole cycling career. So I've progressed quite well throughout the last 3 years that I've been racing, and I really think that there's a lot more room to improve. And at this level that I'm racing at now, I want to say that I see myself at that level, at the World Tour level. Maybe not next year, but maybe the next 2 years. I really want to hope and I believe that there is an opportunity for me there, because the things that I've been doing have been matching some of the guys' progression, winning national championships and then doing really well at big stage races. And then the next year they do even better, and then boom, they made it. They get a call up and they get to race the Tour of California or the Dauphiné or something like that. So that's obviously the end goal is to make it to the highest level. Absolutely.
And one of the things that is, you're on an exclusively U23 team right now, the Aevolo Cycling Team, run by Michael Creed, who's a legend in the sport from the late 90s to early 2000s and after. what's the advantage of being on a team with a bunch of guys that are right at your same age compared to, if you were on Rally or UHC, you have a wide range of ages. Does that take some of the pressure off?
It really does. With Mike Creed as our director, he has done such an amazing job at letting us know that, hey, we have no pressure, essentially. Like, you guys are, it's cliche, we're the underdogs. We're the guys that are coming in swinging, having nothing to lose. And if there's one thing that he's taught me this last year, that it's, if you're willing to lose a race, you will go so far in cycling and everyone will fear you. If you're willing to take that step and to throw it all out there and lose, you're going to make it, and you're going to make people hurt really bad, because the guys on Rally, United Healthcare, the Pro Continental teams, they're scared. Some of them are scared to lose because some of them are writing for contracts for the next year, and you'll really hurt them if you are like, okay, I'm going to attack now because, screw it, I got nothing to lose. That kind of mentality. So if you come into a race like that, it's a very, very dangerous card to play. And, he's taught us to not come into the races with pressure. There's no need for that. And especially having guys my age. I mean, the oldest guy we have on our team is 21 years old. That's it. I'm 20. We have 19-year-olds. 19 through 21 is our age group. And the advantage that we have there for the youth of our in cycling and our team is that we're a true family. We're all alike. We're all young. We're all trying to progress and get better. No one is looking at each other like, ooh, I'm going to take your spot next year. Oh, man, no, maybe he's going to take my spot next year. No one's worried about that. And this is the best kind of cycling you can have right now. And so I'm trying to enjoy every single year that I get of this non-pressured cycling, because I know it will go away eventually. But with guys this young on our team, we are a family and we work very well together, and we will sell out for each other and help each other and lift each other up and, make sure everyone's okay. And that's something that not every team has. And I think it's a key that if you have, you can go very far. And just looking back at the last few weeks of our racing, we've been able to sell out for Luis and Gage and everyone, and no one is worried about what's going to happen to them, because all they know is that they're going to be racing bikes. And when that happens, we can accomplish very, very good things.
It's almost like you're all in school together, and you're not going to be in school forever. You're not going to be in school together for the next 10 years. So you all know that your time on this team is limited. So maybe that takes some of the pressure off. These other teams that, you could be on a pro team for 10 years, maybe 11, 12 years. Right. So Adam, why don't we have more U23 teams in this country if that's such a good foundation to have? Why is it a weird thing? Why can't Rally have a men's team, a women's team, and a U23 team?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all about funding in the program. You look at, I don't know how prevalent it is now, but like BMC used to have a U23 team. And then that's where you got TJ Eisenhart from, who is now the poster boy for Holowesko Citadel, presented by Arapaho. So they're out there for sure. I think if you look at a team like Rally, they've grown very slowly over the years. There's an article, I forgot where it was. There's an article about the program and how it's developed over the past few years, and they're just taking it slow and making sure that every step they move forward is sustainable. And so from that perspective, that's not in their wheelhouse yet. But as far as what you've seen in the U.S., like Axel Merckx with the Action team has done it, and they've gone away from it being
is Action now? U23 now, or they?
They were until they became Pro Conti,
okay.
I believe. And I think now they're trying to keep it under like 25 or 26.
Yep.
And that left the door open for a team like Aevolo and Mike Creed's team. And it's seeing Alex win national championships was amazing. Seeing Mike Creed and his team win another national championship is is not surprising, because if you look at what Mike did when he was running the Smart Stop team, and then what he's doing now, he's taken the same style, the same motivation, the same family atmosphere, and he's putting it into a new team, and he's getting fantastic results out of all of his riders. And it's really cool to watch. Mike, if you listen to this, I'm not at all surprised at what you've done, which may seem, I guess, mean in a way, but it's actually meant to be a very, very big compliment, because he does some fantastic stuff out there.
And he's just a funny dude.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
He's hilarious. But so, Alex, like you're doing Worlds as a U23 rider. Do you have any particular? Is this going to be your first time doing Worlds?
Yes, this is the very first time.
And you're doing the road race and just the road race?
Just the road race. My teammate Gage Hecht is doing the.
So what's your? I mean, you're going to be racing against future Tour de France champions, possibly future Paris-Roubaix winners. You're going to be in some very, very elite company. Are you a little bit freaked out? Or a little bit scared, or?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous for sure. You know, I've raced at the national level, obviously, but never. Actually, I did go to Europe and raced against some of the best guys, the best U23 guys in the world earlier this year. So that was actually very helpful, because I kind of have an idea of, you know, how good these guys are and what to expect from them. But, you know, the World Championships is another beast in itself. So everyone's going to be coming at this race wanting to win, because this is, you know, a life-changing race for some people. So I'm obviously nervous, but I think with the right preparation that Adam and I have done and will do, I think this could be something special, and if it all comes together, something could happen.
Then you have to like wear national championship striped jersey or a possible rainbow jersey. Who knows? So many jerseys to keep track of.
Oh man. Oh,
So
right.
Does the course favor you? Does it have a lot of elevation?
Actually, yes. It's got an insane amount of elevation. It has over 10,000 feet of climbing. I think it's somewhere around 11 or 11 and a half within 180K, I think we're doing. 190K, 180, 190, somewhere around there. So it is going to be a climber's course for sure. There will be no sprinters at the end.
So are you going to be looking to your teammates? Or are you going to be piggybacking off of some of the other teams? Like, I don't know, maybe the Spanish guys or Colombians, like, that can really climb.
Yeah.
Do you have some kind of framework that you're going to say, okay, I can kind of, I know I'm a climber, this is my kind of course, and here's how I'm going to do it? Or are you just going to go to experience it and really learn from it?
I think there's a little bit of both. I'm not sure who all is going to be on the world's road race team so far, but I can imagine Brendan McNulty will be doing the road race as well.
And he can climb.
So very, very well, very well. So if I had to guess, we would be working for him, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to do anything for myself either. You know, that just means we might have to just favor helping him a little more. But to be honest with you, there's very little help someone can do in races like these when it gets that hard. If it's that hard, you're just hanging on for grim death. So at a certain point, you can help someone, but when it starts to go uphill and stays uphill, you know, you're really just hanging on for as long as you can. So I think we're gonna, you know, go into the race hoping for a result, obviously, and with Nate Wilson leading the race as the race director, we'll definitely be in good company there. He'll know what to do. He's been over at Europe a lot. He knows all the riders, so I'm not worried. We're gonna obviously talk about the race more when we get there. So I'm not, you know, particularly sure what we're going to be doing as far as tactics go, but you know, I hope everything goes well. If USA can get a result, if McNulty can win, get a podium, you know, if I can do really well, top 20, top 10, you know, I mean, I don't know. we'll see. It's going to be a really, really hard race. So I'm going into the race not expecting hardly anything because I've never been at this type of level before. I'm just going to prepare the best I can here, and we're just going to go in kind of, as going in as best as we can and seeing.
Adam, do you have any sort of coaching advice you could give to Alex about his prep and time to do World? He's got one day, one shot to make the best single day race of his life.
Well, that's what we're doing. So Alex just finished. So he did 2 major blocks. One this spring where he did Joe Martin, Gila, Redlands, and then the day after Redlands, he's on a plane over to Europe to do some more racing. He comes back, he rests for a little while, and then we do nationals, and then after nationals, we in essence start training for Utah and Colorado, which are the 2 hardest stage races in North America. So to say he's fit is probably an understatement right now. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of ways to say, Alex, we can get you way more fit in the next few weeks before Worlds. So
right.
What we have to do is tune everything to Alex to being able to ride really, really, really well on one day. And because the day after World Championships, no one cares how good you feel. No one cares if you feel better the day after Worlds or not, because it's over. The day after Worlds, you're on a plane going home, and it doesn't matter. So that's what we're working on. We're working on right now. We're resting, but then it's once he gets recovered from these 2 massive races, we're gonna look at doing a lot of training to focus on a one-day, all-out, like go for it, swing for the fences kind of race, and we'll see what happens. I think Alex has done enough of the races to kind of understand the flow, and once you can understand the flow and how the races work, then it's just a matter of placing yourself in the right place at the right time, and then you just gotta pedal. There's a pretty nasty climb before you hit the circuits, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4 laps on the circuits, and then with 4 nasty climbs on them, and so all we got to do is put them in the right spot to go up the hill and just make it pedaling and hanging on, and then seeing what happens. So there's a lot of work left to be done, but it's not like we have to start over, all over from the beginning of the season. We're just tuning what he has and making sure he can make the super hard effort.
And Alex, as Adam was saying, you've just completed the 2 toughest races in North America. Utah and Colorado, which one was tougher for you? They're both so close to each other. Utah easy, just way harder?
Easy. It was easy. It's 3 days longer. It's over twice the amount of miles, over, 4 times the amount of climbing. I mean, it's just longer. And
but you had a better result at Utah.
There's not much I can say. Yeah, because it was harder. As weird as that sounds, I like when the race is hard. That's when I can kind of do well. That's when everyone else fades. Obviously not everyone else. There's 16 people that faded a lot less than I did. But, that's when I can pull out the best result.
Was it sort of freaky to be in the same company as, Lotto and BMC and some of the World Tour teams? Were you just staring at their kits, or was it just they're just like any other rider? It didn't faze you at all?
I mean, you can't say that they're any other rider because they've done some pretty special things to get to where they're at. But I certainly do think that I've come a long ways from last year at Utah to this year at Utah. I've definitely improved tremendously, and being able to climb with some of the best climbers in the world that were at Utah is something not everyone can say. And obviously I didn't even climb with the very, 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 very best that won or got top 5 or whatever, but I still climbed with the very top of the guys in this race, and they just have a couple more % better legs than I did, and that's all I need to make it to where they're at. So they're obviously very, very talented, but I don't see myself extremely far behind. So yeah, it was very fun racing with those guys. It was such a thrill knowing that I'm riding right next to TJ Van Garderen and Nielsen Powis and Rob Britton and just these guys that are.
Do you feel maybe that you're starting to have a little bit of more outside pressure? I mean, maybe you're doing more interviews. You're a little bit more in the spotlight than you were a year ago. How are you taking that?
I like it. I'm a fan. I think that it's a privilege and an honor to be able to be on these talk shows, and I really appreciate that you have chosen me to do this interview. This is something that I really enjoy, and I think it's a privilege to be able to do these things because it's really cool that people want to hear my story. They want to hear where I came from and how I got there, and I think a lot of people don't understand that it's not just riding a bike. A lot of people are kind of just like, oh yeah, you ride bikes, but this dude, he's a professional basketball player. It's so when they understand that it's just as hard to make it to the top level, then it's really cool because people are like, oh wow, like that is really impressive. It doesn't seem so on TV because they're just pedaling and you're like, oh, that's easy. But then when you actually have the opportunity to do it and ride next to them, you're like, wow, these guys they're very talented and very special. So I really enjoy having the opportunity to take the time and talk to other people and give them advice just as much as I want to learn from them, because I am extremely young at this point in my life and I obviously don't have it all figured out. So I love to learn from you and from Adam just as much as they can maybe.
I'm much older than you, and so is Adam, and I can speak for myself. I don't have everything figured out. Maybe Adam does. I don't know, but the learning curve never ends. I've been cycling since I was 9 years old. I still there's always something new to learn in the sport. Yeah. And anyone that tells you they know everything or they've reached, they're just lying or joking or both.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, so Alex, what sort of? I've been thinking about this, and American cycling's kind of hurting a little bit right now with the loss of some big sponsors in the sport. Well, I wanted to get your thoughts. What's it going to take to sort of have a resurgence or renaissance or interest in American cycling? You're definitely a main staple of the American peloton. What do you think can happen to bolster the sport?
I think if they find different ways to make this sport more viewer friendly, as in circuit races and whatnot, or maybe they live stream more races if they can. I think those are just a couple things that can be done to get more interest in the sport, because when you go to Tulsa Tough or any kind of big crit, you see hundreds of people there, and then when you go to Joe Martin stage 1 110 miles, you see no one. So there's definitely a correlation to that. Obviously no one wants to watch someone for 2 seconds on the side of the road. It's not that entertaining. But I really think the sport can grow and has the potential to be better. I don't think it can be as good as watching Formula One or watching a boxing match. I just don't think this sport just can't do that. We have to have roads to do this beautiful sport that we do. And I think that maybe there's a couple things that can happen here or there to make this sport more viewer friendly, but in the end, it just people, the people that love this sport, the people that have money and love this sport, just we need to make sure they know that they are very appreciated for doing what they do, because they're dumping loads and loads of money into teams to give us the privilege to do what we do best and to do what we want to do. So I definitely think the more they know that they're appreciated, I think they'll have more interest in the next year and the next year and the next year to keep that team going. So I think.
And Adam, same question. What do you think is going to take?
I mean, I think at its root, you look at professional sport, it's all, professional sports exist as an entertainment product. And from, like, I don't know how to solve a lot of the problems that cycling has. I do know that to reinforce a lot of what Alex said, but maybe a little bit more generally, is just that you have to figure out how to capture people's attention and keep them excited with the drama and the action of the race, and make sure the product that you put out there, whether it's live streaming or television broadcast or live, in-person watching, is exciting, and that people are excited to watch it. And then to some degree you need the icon, the poster child, the one that inspires like hope and makes people want to do it themselves. And that's what Greg LeMond was. That's what Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I'd say we need a clean Lance, or whoever the next. Could be you, Alex. We could look to you to inspire the next generation of cyclists out there. We'll get cool bracelets made and everything. Right. And that is our show. Alex represents a new crop of young guns going for whatever they can in the sport, and people like Adam Mills are helping sort of guide them along the route. So we appreciate them as well. So if you have any questions for me, reach out to me, Brian at SoCalCyclist.org, or on social media. Instagram is at SoCal_cyclist, and Facebook is SoCal Cyclist Podcast. We had a great time, a great show, and we look forward to bringing you a little bit more of new and upcoming riders. Can't wait. So until next time, for Josh Benici, Alex Hoehn, and Coach Adam Mills, this is Brian Coe saying, respect the wave.